So I think the biggest thing that I've learned is when you're speaking to a customer, being good about staying in your lane. Like if your focus is this, don't do anything else. Because then you just get too spread thin and you're doing too many things, and you can't keep getting better at one thing if you're doing seven different things.
Hands down.
Okay.
Hello, and welcome to my show. This is the podcast of Unveiling Journeys. My name is Tiffany Alexander. If this is your coming back moment, like you've watched it before, welcome. If this is your first time, my goodness, I'm a huge, huge fan of networking, masterminds, being in room with people that are smarter than me, mentors, and meeting incredible people and bringing them on the show. And I get to tell their journey, their story. In that, I want you to hang out with me today because I have an amazing guest. And how do we meet? A networking event, like a super high level networking event where just incredible people come. Oh, by the way, if you ever want to come to one, just ask and I'll get you in. So that way you can meet some of the cool people that I get to hang out with. But I'm super excited. Let's go. I want to introduce my friend, Brian Hardy. Welcome, Brian. Tell us a little bit about you.
Hey, thanks so much, Tiffany. I appreciate you having me on your show today. So, a bit about me. Right now, I'm currently living in Portugal. I moved here about 9 months ago, and it was kind of a dream of ours. We saw it on HCTV a few years ago and decided we should live there someday. Someday came, and now we're over here, and I'm in the marketing business. And one of my things has always been whatever I do needs to be able to be done anywhere. And so, even when we lived in the U.S., we kind of moved around a lot. So here I am over here now, and we love it over here, and it's great being able to do business from anywhere in the world.
Oh, I love that. Now, I'm new to marketing space.
Mhm.
I don't want to use a negative word. I'm going to say I'm working on being better in marketing. What kind of marketing do you do right now?
Yeah, so right now we're primarily focused on building out systems for in the franchise space. So we work with individual businesses, but our main focus is kind of helping franchisors create systems for their franchisees. And so think, AI chatbots, voice bots, automations, text campaigns, and things like that. Basically all the things that can kind of automate a lot of the nurturing and sales process for making it sure that they're not losing customers and leads aren't going to who knows where, and we're able to capture missed calls and things like that. So that's our primary focus. Where we really find the industry that we can help the most is the service, like home-based service industries like lawn care, roofing, plumbers, just because it can be really expensive to have a call center. And just with our AI chat, we can capture those opportunities quickly and really help them see, even if they got one customer, it more than covers the cost of what we do for them.
I love this so much because sometimes when you're in a little bubble in your world, whether you're an employee, a business owner, unemployed, stay at home mom, oh my gosh, that's a job. You don't even know what you don't know. Like the thing
Yeah.
is, somebody had to invent this, somebody had to put it all together,
Hmm.
and you're helping people implement it. And
Yeah.
the people that you're targeting to have a wild change and a shift in their business, they need you so bad because they didn't even know that they needed this kind of a thing. So I
Right.
get super excited because having systems in place to help you run your business better, hands
It's
down the
huge.
best thing ever. And
You have to have them now,
yeah, you have to, or
no
you're
matter how
going to be
big your
left
team
behind.
is.
You're going to
Yeah.
be left behind. But like you said, because it's like robots and chats and code and stuff like that, it's not hiring another human. It's like implementing this in infinite, right? For your business.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I love this so much. That's why I love talking about it. And I don't know what I don't know. So it's like, I don't need this service, but I know so many people that do.
Yeah.
And I actually want to hear the beginning of the story because you're a US citizen living in Portugal. Where did
Hmm.
you grow up? Like, where are you from? Tell me the beginning of this.
Yeah. So it's a long list. Started out, I was born in Toronto, Canada. We then moved to British Columbia, and then we actually won the green card lottery in the 80s, and which is a thing. I think it's
Yeah.
still maybe a small thing, but it was a bigger scale back then. We moved down to California and then over to Arizona. Grew up in Arizona for many years, and then I met my wife there, and we moved to California and Washington State, Maine, and then down to Florida. And then that's when we decided we'd hit all four corners and it's time to go hit Europe next. So yeah, and in between those, we lived in tons of different houses. Every time I lived in a city and I wanted to live in a different part of the city, when my lease was up, or we would move to the next part of town and kind of experience that until we wanted to move on to the next part. And then we'd move to the next state.
You guys are like with the traveling circus.
Completely, completely. We actually did it with chickens. Two of the moves. We moved from Maine to Portland and Portland to Maine with a truck full of chickens, two cats, two dogs. I mean, it was
Full of
like
what is
moving a
full of
zoo.
chickens? How many is full of chickens?
When we went from Maine to Portland, we had six or seven chickens that we brought.
That's enough. That's a full of chickens.
They were in the car during the day and the truck during the night, where we set up like a whole pen and everything for them. So yeah, we've traveled the U.S. with many different types of animals.
Oh my god. All right. So, what did you want to be when you grew up? What did you go to school for, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I was not a fan of high school, but I was doing this, it was like an afternoon kind of elective type school in Arizona. It was called the East Valley Institute of Technology, and I was in there for graphic design. And I was telling my teacher there, I said, I don't like high school. I'm not gonna go there anymore. I'm dropping out. And you were supposed to technically be in high school to not pay for school there. And he said, I'm just going to pretend you didn't say that. And you come here all day long and you just spend the whole day here because I know this is what you love doing. And so, amazing teacher, probably one of the best teachers I ever had. And I think 3 months later, he got me my first job as an intern at the newspaper. I do date back far as newspapers. That was one of my first jobs. And yeah, I did. I was a graphic designer for the Mesa Tribune in Arizona for a couple of years. And then I went to work for New Times in Florida for a little bit and started out in the newspaper. And then I also worked for some print shops. So I've kind of been around different areas of marketing, back in the old school days of printing and that sort of thing in newspapers.
Right before the internet was a thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, email was barely a thing. We used to, when we did the newspaper, we would actually like print out and create the big boards that would go to the press with the ads on it
Whoa.
and cut it all up and put separations there for color ads. Like that's how we used to do it back then.
It's a trip to think that we're not even that far distanced from that
I mean, that was
world.
20 something years ago. Yeah,
Right, right.
we were splicing up newspapers and it was crazy.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I imagine a bunch of people poured into you. What led you like to your next adventure?
Yeah, so when I was working in Florida at the New Times, I met a good friend of mine, Mark, and he was a print broker. And that was kind of my first going off on my own. I was kind of doing little bit of side work for some of the sales reps at the newspaper, and he kind of taught me the business of print brokering. And so basically the way that would work is you would go out and get clients, I would do the design work, and then I would get the printing done for them and then upsell it. And so I actually created a business off that, and he helped me get started with that and teach me how to do it and all that kind of stuff. And I did that for many years. That was actually the last time I worked for anybody, was that I started
How
doing
old were
that.
you?
And I was 19, no, 20 when I did that.
I feel like you're
Yeah.
already well into your 20s, and here you are telling a story. You're like, I was 19 last time I worked for someone.
Yeah. Yeah. I was 20. I did that for a while. And then I got into signs. I used to do like a sign shop, like vinyl letters for cars and the big signage above restaurants and things like that. And we did trade show booths for a while. Those are really fun. We'd create some really cool booths and we traveled to the show, even if it was I remember once we went to Cancun and they just needed us to fly down and set up their booth. And it was a 10 by 10 booth. Like it took an hour, but they paid for the whole vacation. We hung out in Cancun for a week. I mean, it was such cool trips like that.
That's the way to go. I've
It
never
was
even been to
amazing.
Cancun. It's like it's one of those things that everybody went. Oh, it's like your high school trip, or your
You
everybody goes
kind of
because
have
it's
to
so
go.
cheap to go, right?
It is. Yeah. Yeah. It's fun down there. So yeah, that's kind of my journey with, getting into different parts of marketing and that sort of thing. And several years later, I'd been doing print brokering for years, and somebody gave me or no, I think I saw an ad at first for Tony Robbins Business Mastery, and this was back in 2014, I believe. And I was kind of getting a little burnt out with doing print brokering and stuff like that and all the other stuff. And I ended up going to that event and I think it was 6 or 8 grand to go to this thing. And I didn't even have that. And so clearly my business was, it was a solopreneur job. It was paying my bills, but it wasn't, great, but it made it so I didn't have to work for anybody, which I was happy with. Yeah, I put it on credit card. I went to that and I completely shifted to all web design at that point. So
Really?
moved away from print, kind of seeing, everything's kind of going web. I was able to work with different types of clients going more web. So I actually going to that event just with the stuff I learned before going, I paid off my credit card before the event, which was awesome. The whole trip was
Yeah.
covered. And then I probably landed at least 30 to 40 grand worth of business and just networking, which wasn't even the reason I was going, and just people I met there that ended up working with and becoming friends and doing business with. And it was awesome. So did that for several years and started adding some different reoccurring type revenue to it, like hosting and stuff like that. So I learned a lot during that process, and I actually ended up selling that business a couple of years ago and learned a ton from that process. Exiting a business, you learn so much, especially if you do it yourself.
Oh, yeah. Right, because you
Yeah.
technically are a little bit of an irreplaceable factor that I tell people to never do. Never make
Hmm.
yourself irreplaceable. How would they replace you then? It takes multiple
Yeah.
people to care as much as you care.
Exactly. Yeah. And the biggest thing that I learned in that is, as an owner, being too involved in all the processes can make it a little more challenging to sell, because then the business relies so much on you. Whereas if you have people in place, systems in place, and all those things, you can kind of open your net to more buyers when you're doing that. But my goal when I was selling that was, how do I find somebody that cares as much as I do? Because I didn't just want to throw it to some company and then all these people I'm working with, are not getting great service and that kind of thing. So that was an important part of the sale to me, is who
Yeah.
can take this over, because I became friends with lots of my clients on there. So I wanted to make sure it was passing along to somebody that cared as much as I do. So which it all worked out that way.
Yeah. Well, in the middle of having that, what was like some of your highs and lows in that business that you decided to move on or open more stuff?
Yeah, I would say some of the highs. I mean, I've learned so much working with different clients in different industries, like about their industries. Like sometimes I feel I know about industries that I've never worked in, just because I've worked with people in that industry, whether it be construction and things like that, which we ended up actually starting a home flipping business for a little while. So I kind of learned some bits and parts of that from working with construction clients and stuff like that. So that was cool. Lows, I'd say the lows were probably me being too involved in everything that caused burnout. And I actually was in another business mastery from Robbins and several years later. And it was during that I decided to sell. He said something about, if you're burnt out and over it, and just you're not able to serve people in the same way you used to because of those reasons, you need to sell it immediately. And I literally got on the phone, because it was a hybrid event, and was messaging my friend who had sold a business. I'm like, how did you do it? What did you use? I got some resources, and it was actually sold within 2 months from that day.
Love that so much because that's what
Yeah.
changed the path of my real estate was like, I bet you're a burnout landlord. I was like, no, I'm not. And you justify, work hard. And then you
Hmm.
let that advice sink in. I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. I really was burnout in landlording. It was like eating me alive, have rentals
It's
all over the
tough.
place.
Oh, yeah.
Now I get to use
Yeah.
that line on people. I bet you're a burnout landlord. Like, no, I'm not. I'm like, chew on it for a minute.
Yeah. Think about that for a couple minutes.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, burnout's a big thing. And I think it can come for many reasons. But for me, it came from basically taking on every role in the business. And that's just not sustainable if you think, if you want to have personal time and have that work life balance, which I think is important. It's hard to do that if you're wearing all the shoes. So
Yeah.
in my
How'd you
new
learn to
business,
not do that though?
I think I didn't until I sold the business. The concept sounds great, but getting to do it, forcing yourself to do it, and realizing, I think the biggest thing is realizing that other people can do the job just as good or maybe better than you
Yeah.
can in certain roles in your business. And so after I sold that, and when I started my new business, I thought of all of those things. Like, I kind of brain dumped, what don't I want to do? And I immediately got to pass those off. And I'm still continuously doing, because you always kind of find yourself going back to patterns of doing things that you shouldn't be. And I'm getting much better at that, actually. And if while I'm doing it, I'm not enjoying it, I need to push that off to somebody. And
Right.
with all the resources now out there with VAs and things like that, I mean,
Yes.
it's so easy.
I'm a huge fan. Obviously, we have like
Same.
a little inside. Brian and I, we share a VA because I don't need 40 hours right now. Well, I need multiple of them, but I was like, Brian, are you avoiding answering emails? You forgot to circle around these darn LinkedIn messages, all the stuff that little bitty things like the stuff, in my opinion, when I identified where I was getting burnt out or where I was like struggling was the stuff that I was avoiding. And it was
Yeah.
like, you're avoiding it because you're dreading it. And the dread, my husband tells me, don't dread something. How do I not dread it? It's like, well, the D's like delegate, dismiss, right?
Mhm.
Do it or delegate it. So you don't want to be bothered. Yeah.
Basically, everybody needs an Arvin. They all
Yeah,
need their
that's
own
my
Arvin.
yeah, that's one of my VA's names. He's amazing. And his sister
Yeah.
Arlene, right? But,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. So
Yeah. Yeah.
figuring that out, selling that business, that wasn't even that long ago. Were you doing multiple businesses at the same time with that one?
I had multiple channels. I was always I always kind of had some print brokering in there and things like that. And we'd take on kind of stuff that wasn't our main thing. That's the biggest thing I think is focusing your niche as well as focusing what you want to do. And I think that can also bring you in the weeds sometimes. If your focus is creating this system, then and you get people coming to you asking, can it do all these other things? And it wasn't designed to do that. Don't try to band-aid it together. That's one of the biggest things I've learned because I would usually figure out a way to accommodate, which would cause more time. It's harder to charge for those things. And if it's not designed for that, future times things can go wrong, especially in technology and software and web and things like that. So I think the biggest thing that I've learned is when you're speaking to a customer, being good about staying in your lane. Like if your focus is this, don't do anything else because then you just get too spread thin and you're doing too many things and you can't keep getting better at one thing if you're doing seven different things.
Hands down.
Okay. You
And
know?
I love the phrase that you use, staying in my lane, because I don't know, a couple years ago, I finally heard that. And when people are like, Tiff, there's a shiny object. I love shiny objects. Man, how much is that distracting me from everything else I'm doing? And sometimes I just come out to tell people, like, I love the thing you're telling me. I wish I could side hustle that. But I'm actually staying in my lane right now and I need to be
Mhm.
laser focused at it because I'm really good at it and I enjoy it. And yes, it's now defaulted to my comfort zone and I love pulling people out of their comfort zone. But
Yeah.
if I'm really good at it and it's not work, right?
Mhm.
You don't feel like it's work, then you wouldn't get burnt out. You can just press forward and then help people in the stuff that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hands down.
It's so important. Just being focused. I used to never in my old business, I never agreed with niching down.
Mhm.
Like I thought, what's the difference? I'll build a website for this company or the other. And to a degree that's true, but from an outbound marketing standpoint and focusing on that one really good thing that you're doing, it's so important to do that because then people start turning to you as, oh, you're the guy or girl that does this, right? Even thinking from a referral standpoint, if you're out there promoting like seven different things and you're expecting people to send business your way, but they've heard about 18 different things and they don't even know what you do really. They kind
Right.
of
Right.
know. It's hard to build that side of the business up too if you're not super focused and like everybody that knows you knows you're the guy or girl that does this and for this person. It actually kind of makes everything easier when you can do it that way.
And that's awesome advice. I feel like you learned all these nuggets, and obviously we're still never learning in this. What's some of your favorite advice that you really cling to still?
My favorite saying is ready, fire, aim. So
Yeah.
don't get caught up in all the details before launching something. Like get it out quick, test it, put it out there and see if it works. And if it doesn't, quickly change, shift. That I always follow. One thing I actually started is about a month after I sold the business 2 years ago. I didn't know what I was going to do for the rest of my life when I grow up. And I started dabbling with a coffee brand. And it was interesting. I used AI to basically, I was up and running website, all of the branding, the labels. I found a coffee co-packer. I got a Shopify setup and I had everything up and running in a week and got my first order. And to start testing it. And, I did it for a couple months and realized I wasn't really into it and I wasn't really seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but I could have just stuck with it for years and probably gone into a bunch of debt over it. I could have been miserable with it because I was noticing it wasn't fun up my alley. So, I think that launching things quickly and finding those answers out quicker than later is really important. And with all the technology we have now, it's so easy to do that with AI. Like you can launch a business in an hour,
Oh, yeah.
a
Yeah.
fully branded logo, like everything. There's no reason you can't launch in an hour. Most
Love that
businesses.
dabbled in that and you gave it stuck in long enough to feel like, "Oh, man, this isn't a thing." No joke, like, a couple months ago, I had a moment where I was like, "I have a couple hours free right now, and I'm caught up on emails. I'm gonna click on one of those ads on Instagram that's like, I'll open a Shopify account, load it up with things." I think it was like $100 deep into it, and I was like, "This is not my wheelhouse. I cannot even imagine doing this." And then, of
Yeah.
course, the tariff and shipping and all that. I'm grateful that I didn't dive really deep into that, but it only
Yeah.
took me about 2 days. Then the 4th day, I was like, "Close the account. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna sell any of this stuff. Not gonna
Yeah.
make it go live." Like, yeah, you have to be willing to go take a stab at it, spend a few bucks if you're gonna, and then understand, "All right, is this my thing? Do I even enjoy this?" It was like pulling teeth. Yeah, not my jam.
Imagine the money you saved by signing up, starting it, playing around with it for a couple days, as opposed to if you had saw the idea and then planned it out for the next month and like built a marketing campaign
No.
and all these other things, as opposed to just up and running it and being like, this isn't for me.
Yeah. You just reminded me of an old piece of advice I used to tell people constantly, and that was, "Man, if you're gonna fail, fail quick and fail cheap."
Yes.
Because if you fail long and you drag it out, it's gonna be more and more and more expensive, and that works in real estate too, like, sell it, right? Like, I've
Yeah.
had to cut losses on stuff because it was just, you know, bleeding you out and stuff.
We bought an Airbnb in March 2020. I understand.
Oh, it's like the worst time ever.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. We actually closed on a flip house in October 2020. So, like, I have a
Yeah.
similar relation, and that was, like, after I swore off rentals. It was my last rental and flip I've ever had because it turned into a
Mhm.
rental, and then what do? You're like, "Sell this sucker." But
Yeah.
I relate hardcore. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Dude, fail fast, fail cheap, get out of it, but fire, then aim, right? Like, t take
Yeah.
a stab at it. I think those are the people that will commit to something whenever they come around.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wanna move forward in your story. Tell me more about where you're at and where it went from where we left off.
Yeah, yeah. So, we moved over to Portugal, and after I started, so while I was working on that coffee business and slowly realizing it's not for me, I was actually building out a marketing thing using our platform, and that's actually what kind of got started with it. Is I was building this out for the coffee company, and within a few weeks of building it out for the coffee company, I'm like, "Oh, I hate this coffee company, but what I'm doing right now could be really fun." Could actually kind of sustain like our lifestyle of wanting to move to different places. I mean, I can't really do a coffee place if I gotta go to the coffee markets and all that kind of stuff. I can't leave Florida if I'm doing that. So I quickly realized that what I was creating for that was actually my new business model, and that's where the Maverick started. We created the platform and started getting some of my old customers that I've known over the years using it, and they really liked it. And that kind of started changing into me niching down and kind of thinking, what industries can we serve and actually serve and do something that no one else is doing? And so that was one of my biggest thing, because there's 100 million of us marketers out there all over the world. And if you look at all of our sites, there's a lot of similarities. And so I didn't want to just be the guy who can get you roofing leads or the guy who can get you whatever leads. We wanted to differentiate ourselves. And so that's when I started thinking of franchises. And having owned a franchise, doing the home flipping business, I knew what a really good franchise looked like because we had amazing systems and they actually had a lot of good stuff in place. So I started kind of asking around people that own franchises, and a lot of them were saying, yeah, from a local level, we don't really have much. They kind of give a logo and some car wrap graphics, and here, go run your business,
That
which
sounds insane to buy into a
it's
franchise and
insane.
just get that.
That's
And they charge
literally
so much.
yeah, you pay, I think on the lowest end, 40, 50 grand to buy into. You can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's just the buy-in. If it's a location, you got build out and employees. And so they're not cheap. And so you're buying into a concept that works already. But some of them aren't even really giving you anything to market with. So I felt like there was a opportunity there, and we started kind of doing some outward marketing and leads and stuff like that. And I started getting some people on that were interested in the offer because they haven't seen anything and it was a need. So it's been really cool to kind of start seeing that we found an opportunity that not everybody is going after, which I like better. I don't want to chase the same thing everybody else is doing. I want to be able to get in there, create those relationships with them and help them grow and that kind of thing.
I love hearing that you invented this out of a need that you were seeking to solve for people instead of trying to just be one of the others.
Yeah.
Be the loudest or no, there's a quote from a friend of mine that was like, man, you need to be different in the sea of sameness.
Yes.
And in that, like, okay, who's lacking? Who's needing right now? What are the skills I have that I can apply to it? And then, of course, make the internet AI make it all better. Can I ask you a question? Some of this stuff had a lot of trial and error, a lot of
Yeah.
figuring this out, a lot of probably like me, 4 AM nights responding to emails and like simmering on it. As an
Yes.
entrepreneur, we we try so hard all the time for our clients, but why do you try so hard for them? Why do you keep trying so hard for them?
I mean, I like to see people successful. And so if I can be part of that and helping them, I enjoy that. I mean, one of the things that I enjoy the most in my business is not necessarily the systems and all that kind of stuff. It's working one on one with people and seeing like what is their challenge and what's going on, what's keeping them up at night, and how do we solve that as an outside kind of voice and someone looking in, because we're all guilty of it, of not being able to see our own problems.
Yeah.
And so being able to look at what's going on with them and say, you should do this. And a lot of times they might say, I never thought about that. It's a great idea.
Mhm.
And people I get advice from all the time, I get those same scenarios. I'm like, wow, I wish I had a thought of that. And this is what I do. We all
Right.
need that outside voice. And so I think that's the part I enjoy. And I just like to see people succeed. And if everybody's successful, things go great.
Oh man, I love that you got to share that with everybody. Tell me
Yeah.
what's next? What you're working on this stuff, you're crushing it, you're helping a bunch of franchisees. Like what anything on the horizon that we need to know about?
I'm just more focusing on, I've had a big shift in marketing and how I outreach. I'm doing a lot more referral based, which is funny because that's how I did my whole last business. I never dabbled in ads or anything. It took a little longer because I didn't have a systemized process in place. So I've been kind of more focusing on that. I'd say, as far as from a business standpoint, a lot of our AI is getting better, and we're going to be doing some outbound type stuff for industries like the service space. Think reminders, did you get the quote, things like that. We're working on things like that. From a personal level, we're enjoying Europe, and we're planning on traveling more. We're going to Poland next week, actually, for the first time. And yeah, just exploring more, and trying to get more of the things in my business, having someone to do those things so that I can really just, my 1 year goal would be, if I'm just helping clients with those strategy sessions and things like that. To me, that would be amazing if I could just spend my days doing that and have someone kind of taking over all the other stuff like setups and working out those kinds of sales and stuff like that, and just focus on that. That's kind of my next big goal.
Oh, I love that. It's all in the
Yeah.
heart of all the stuff you're
Yeah.
doing because it's helping out so many people. It's before I got into heavier into business, I was like, what does B2B mean? And you are the B2B. You're the business helping another business make
Yeah.
them. And really what's happening is you have this incredible ripple effect because it's actually affecting just one business owner with multiple companies, franchises, right? And then
Yeah.
they're helping all of their clients get fulfilled with their services and be able to buy whatever they're buying. And the stuff that you're
Exactly.
doing is much more bigger that's that weird, bigger than
We can go
just
with
the
much
face
more bigger.
value. I'm new to English, but, man, I love that.
No, and that was one of the reasons I like too, like the one to many. It's like we can create this thing that can help not just the franchise, but potentially hundreds of their locations. Like we can help hundreds of customers building out one product for them, which in turn helps their customers. And so everybody kind of wins in that scenario.
Mm, that's fun. Oh,
Yeah.
man, this has been amazing. At this point, some people are like, how do I meet Brian? Brian is a guy that I feel like I really need to know. How do you want someone who's thinking, "I need to know Brian," come find you?
Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn, find me on LinkedIn, Brian Hardy. You can check out our website, themaverick.ai. But the best is just to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd love to just have a conversation with anybody that would like to, and book a call on my calendar.
Absolutely. And if you can't find Brian, you come find me and then you connect. I'll get you in. I'll hook you up. So that way, because we both kind of have like easy names that are replicatable. So we'll find one of
There
us
might
and
be
then
a
we'll
few of me
we'll
out there.
get you.
Yeah.
But if you're watching the show, there's going to be hyperlinks down below in the show notes. So that way you can go find and you need to friend and connect with him. So that way you can get to know him too. This is awesome. I'm so grateful that we had the time because the first time we tried to record this, it was silly. There was like internet after power problem.
And half of Europe lost
Yeah.
power. No big
Yeah,
deal.
that was the timestamp on this, right? It was like, "Oh, what
Yeah.
happened?" Oh, man. So, thank you. Is there anything you wanna leave with everybody before we go?
Sure. Based on kind of some of the stuff we've done, like over our life of moving places and stuff, I would just say if there's something you want to do, don't overthink it. Just do it. Figure out a way to do it if it's something you really want.
That's awesome. All right, you guys
Yeah.
heard it straight out of the mouth of Brian. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming today. I am so excited that we got to hang out and go check out more episodes. And I will see you guys next time or see us on LinkedIn. Everybody, have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, Tiffany.